This is how AI optimizes my schedule. This meeting got.
Did you guys hear that?
Yes.
Was that me?
No, I don't know who that was. That was weird. All right, we're here. We're back now. We're here now. Hi, guys.
Hello. Happy birthday, Ben.
Thank you. Thank you.
Happy birthday.
Thank you. Still a young man. Still not making a big deal out of it, but thanks. Thank you. Hey, I gotta just say, we had a little crypto pop just to start off our conversation, but we've been fading a little bit. Shiba Inu's still up a little bit, meme coin's still up a little bit, but what are you guys making of what's going on here? We got a flattish day on the Qs, and a little bit down on the SPY, but look, you've got like AMD up. Again, crypto popped yesterday, fell back down. Coinbase is up. Like, just some of the names that are green. ARM is up 7%. I don't know. We talked about mega cap and semis leading. Is that what we're getting, GP?
Yeah, it's not necessarily mega cap because Google's not doing anything, Microsoft's not doing anything, Amazon's not doing anything.
Yeah. Right. I'm just
Meta's
saying
not doing
previously
anything.
we had talked about mega caps, right, doing well, but now we've got some other names participating along with semis, is what I'm getting at.
Yeah, I think this is what we talked about, which is like maybe last year. I'm not exactly sure what we talked about it, but the first area of pop from the AI is all like the picks and shovels, right? It's building your foundation. It's the NVIDIAs, it's the chips and stuff. And now you're starting to see it progress towards where you have the velocity in which it can be adapted at a higher rate, which is consumers. So companies start to make money from this stuff as well. You're starting to see it trickle out in news pieces here and there, which is, as you saw, Solars last week went absolutely ape. We talked about First Solar being an awesome buy in the 130, 140s, and we're sitting here 6-8 months later, nearly double. But the setup for that was already being built back then, right? Like, and so the culmination is the news that's going to support the move higher, right? People always need news to make things move higher or to justify why things are moving higher, right? People are like, if you're looking at NVIDIA in this conversation, it's like, it's up $500 billion. Like, no, dude, it's supply and demand. It's never been about market cap. I understand $500 billion sounds like a lot, but it's almost that clickbait crap. They executed their earnings report flawlessly and then crushed the flawless numbers, right? Like, so, and they've done that now. This started last May. Remember that pop? That pop from 340, 350 to 500-ish, and then it sat sideways for 6 months. Yeah, this is them continuing to show the world that we're still crushing it, and the buying is like is part of that conversation. It's rewarding great behavior from a company that's executing flawlessly. I'm sure they'll misstep at some point, but right now is not the right point. So yeah, I think you're just starting to see the broadening of what AI can be, which is the news narrative to make this market move higher. But you're seeing it in solars. You're starting to see it in certain names like, you know, people talk about Tesla being a dog, but in the last 5 weeks, Tesla's up 30 something percent or 35% or something like that, while the markets are only up 10%, right? So already relative outperformance to
26% as of your commentary just now.
36?
26.
26%.
37 points, 26%.
Okay, so at some point it was up like 38.5 or whatever, when it hit like 198 or whatever. But it's still generally outperforming the markets. Yes, it's still in the 170s. I understand your frustration, but if you're looking at a point in basis from when the stock bottomed and the market bottomed, one's outperforming the other, and it's not the Qs, right? So it's important to see things like Tesla, which is first change on the intraday, then change on the daily. Last 2 weeks change on the weekly, and this week finishes the month. So you'd love to see that change hit all trifectas of time frames, which is daily, weekly, and monthly. And that for that to happen, Tesla needs to clear 207, I think, or 208 this week, which is a tall order. That's 32 points from today in 3 days. So it'll be interesting to see if it can do the monthly reclaim as well, which stocks that are in downtrends stair step through technicals as they get better.
Nick, I was just trying to throw him a softball to yap about NVIDIA for the first 5 minutes, and he kind of danced all around it. I mean, we were off last week, and NVIDIA just knocked it out of the park again. If we go back, more than a year ago, right? NVIDIA wasn't close to $1,000. Now we're what is NVIDIA now? Over 1,100 today? With a 10-for-1 split upcoming, 1137 right now. What did you think about NVIDIA, Nick, and what do you think that says for the rest of these names and the market as a whole?
I think with a split, I think we'll start to see money push into a lot of the other names as well. Like I think it'll I don't know. I think if we start seeing, so what was it? Lam Research and now NVIDIA are both the two that have split. Were there any others like as Clack or any of the other names? Have they talked about it?
No, but I'm assuming Broadcom will, and
Right.
the earnings are in 2 weeks, so
I can
focus will probably be on Broadcom over the next couple of weeks because lockstep, it's been Broadcom and NVIDIA crushing it quarter after quarter, and Broadcom is a $650 billion market cap. I'm not saying it should be worth 1 trillion, but I can't imagine it not in this cycle not getting at least close to that 1 trillion market cap, right? And it could be off another split or whatever.
I've got NVIDIA up here. I know we've talked about this at nauseum in the past, but remember all this through here? It's so overvalued. It's so expensive, right? Like
Yeah.
one way train there.
Dude, do you remember the Head and Shoulders? First of all, do you remember the Cisco comparisons in 2022? This is the Cisco tulip bubble. It is over. NVIDIA is done, and it has literally.
Well, let's just say you bought the high right here, right? And then you went through a few weeks of crap because you bought it at 187. If you held to today, you'd only be up 500%. And what is that? That's a little over December 22. So 18 months, 18 months, 18 months, right?
Yeah.
Like it just blows me away. Strength begets strength, as we've talked about. Again, something at length. Anyway,
For sure. And like, even if you didn't want to buy strength, all you had to do is follow one thing in NVIDIA. And you could do this for a lot of stocks, which is the rising 20-week moving average. As long as it stays above, you stay long. And if it breaks below, you get out, and then you re-enter when it reclaims that 20, right? In a
That's
strong
the green
uptrend.
line. That's the green trend.
Yeah, and it broke once in the last.
Popped back in 2 weeks. It only stayed under 2 weeks.
Yeah, but you like, even if you got stopped out as a stop out at 20, as soon as it reclaims, you get back in, you ride up the next wave until it breaks to 20. And right now the 20 is quite low, so you probably don't want to watch that. It's 20 week is like 820. So you probably don't want to see the stock pull back 300 and something points. But yeah, it's technically you could have stayed in the trade and re-entered quite often. I think I think a lot of people overthink stuff when it comes to the markets.
I'm guilty. I'm guilty.
So that's the question I asked today, which was on StockTwits, which is if But why I asked it, because I wanted to discuss it here, which is if you knew a stock was going to go to a certain level. So I asked it about FSLR, right? So if FSLR is going to go to 1100 and you're in right now, even at 280, can you hold all the way to 1100 or even close to it? It doesn't have to be to exactly at 1100. Maybe you say round number at 1000 and we're done. But can you hold all the way through? And so that's the question I ask you to is if you're very confident in your technical analysis and where this thing could potentially go. You're talking about a 27-year base. The breakout here is not going to be 50 points or 100 points. It's going to be a multi-year breakout, right? And that breakout happens over 317. So when that 317 breakout happens, will you be able to hold, or will you be selling at the first sign of weakness? And FSLR can have decent weakness, right? It lost 40-50% during this correction.
Well, my name is Holding Bag, so I will hold it if I buy.
Yeah. No,
Nick, how about you?
no, I'm not holding through I would love to be able to say that I could. I definitely maybe aspire to be there someday, but I'm not holding a 50% drawdown.
Yeah. So like in that case where if your price target was 1100, right? Like for or 1000 for FSLR, how would you, if your entry is here at 280, not 140s when we're talking about, but if you're entering here at 140, how would you end up playing this moving forward?
Oh,
I-
sorry.
If it was me, I'd be peeling a little bit off as it tests the all-time highs, just seeing how it handles and behaves there. I'd be buying that back if it starts to like build. I mean, the thing is, like, it already looks like it's kind of building out a handle right now. That's kind of the thing with this particular breakout. I'd be buying that back definitely through the highs. My ability to hold is largely, again, like how it behaves in terms of its moving averages and like what it does kind of moving forward. If it just like, I mean, like I said, like I'm not holding a 50% drawdown. If the thing stair steps higher, I'm going to be continually kind of like buying some, selling some, buying some, selling some, with the hope that the bases and the pivots that it kind of creates are tradable, because there definitely are, melt up type moves that aren't very tradable.
So
But
for me, it depends. Like if I bought my entire position here, yes, that would be very difficult to hold any type of drawdown below probably 15%, right? Like that'd be very tough for me to do. But I don't ever buy it all in one shot. Like if I'm just in a piker's position and I want to be long the name, and let's say I do fifths of a position till I'm full, right? 5 buys, regardless if they're higher or lower. It's not going to bother me if I buy my first leg here and it goes down. I actually probably want it to go down so I can probably buy 2 or 3 more, sizes of that position. Now, obviously, I would love to buy on the way up and just see it keep on going, but we know that's not the way things work.
then it's harder to leg into a position that just rips straight up.
Yeah.
Like if you weren't in for solar like sub 200, I would, if you weren't in for solar sub 200, like you were definitely chasing any of those massive bars. Like, yeah, what is that, Wednesday?
But you had the opportunity last Monday, Nick.
Yeah.
Literally, we were talking about it, and it takes
my
off
other part of it, right?
Yeah.
That was the other part I was getting ready to mention is I'm unable to sit here and have the seat time and monitor and watch all my positions or everything that I want to be involved in. So I would rather have a small position that all of a sudden runs off and leaves me, right, than worry about, okay, it's a small position that's lost some value. I've got the opportunity to buy on the way down, but if it keeps going, it keeps going. And at least I'm in something I wanted to be in, right?
Yep.
I didn't miss it. I at least got something out of it.
Yeah.
Nice.
So
Thanks,
I'm not saying the way you do it is wrong, Nick. I'm just saying for me, that would be more my style to do it that way.
For sure.
No, I like Nick's style. I think the piece that I would add to Nick's style is maybe building a core or so where for me, I think where my expertise lies is identifying potential monster pivot bottoms, right? Like finding those areas and trying to be long. We've talked about a bunch of stocks over the last couple of years on where it would be a good idea to start building positions, right? So for me, it's the goal would be to get that core at that low level and then trade around it as it's going up and down, right? So you can still keep
Ideally.
your position as is, not to worry about like, you know, the thing is like if you buy it like 140, 150, now you're up 100%. Like even if it takes a 50% haircut here, you're back to break even. Like you're not like, okay, fine, like it didn't work out the way you wanted to, but still not really at a loss, right? And you have any point in time here to kind of sell. But yeah, it's technical, right? You enter on what you think is potential bottoms and how do you identify them, and then you exit based on technical breaks. And usually and what I will say is the first technical break of a big uptrend is probably wrong. And that's something that I've learned over the years. Like look at NVIDIA, we were just talking about, right? It broke the 20-week. It lasted 2 weeks. It closed 1 week under the 20-week or 21-week or whatever it is that you use. And then immediately within a week or two, it reclaimed it, right? So those first breaks in a strong uptrend or even just a strong uptrend are usually buyable breaks. Unless something has fundamentally changed, right? Like I think today's big piece is on Celsius, something about their green tree extract root, whatever, basically a chemical in a can is causing cancer. It's like, no shit, dude. Like it's all manufactured stuff. But today it matters. Yesterday it didn't. It doesn't make any difference. But so like that is potentially a fundamental break because it could really impact their business. So you want to see how it reacts at those technical levels.
Agreed.
Yeah,
Celsius.
dude, it's like one of those no shit Sherlock moments. It's like, yeah, this thing causes cancer. Really? You don't think 3 times the caffeine and all these different weird extracts are going to cause harm to your body? Yeah. Okay.
That's
Yeah.
what
Some dude got into it with me on like, dude, for some reason, so I tried a Celsius and for whatever reason, like it made me feel really bloated. And like,
Yeah. It could
anyway,
be the fake sugars, right?
I'm not as a trader, like I'd be incredibly bullish on a stock that like Celsius that's like crazy addictive. Like, why wouldn't I be? But don't try to tell me it's healthy for you. Come on.
Separate the two, right? It's anyway. I think it's always important to understand that the first, if you can get one piece out of advice from today's podcast, is the first technical break of anything. Like even on the downside, if you're in a straight downtrend and you break the weekly 20-week moving average, which is declining, or the 9-week moving average, whichever one it is, and it breaks on the first attempt, you're most likely easily going to be able to short that back down because that's the trend, right? It takes time to adjust the trend the other way. So the first, basically, if you're thinking about it from a human psychology perspective, Nick, I know you talk about this quite often, is that people are buying that dip and they're going to be, because it's been in a downtrend for what, 6 months, 12 months, however long it's been in a downtrend. As soon as they see that downtrend kind of resurrecting its head, they're like, I'm out. They're quick to be out. And so that's why you have that second bottom that usually happens, which is, okay, well, this is when the real buyers step in. and
I
that's
think-
more sustainable, and it's more chances of seeing further upside. So yeah, it's human psychology and charts as always.
I was gonna say sometimes I've been noticing too a lot, like even when a stock puts in a nice looking base, like we generally, especially like breakout normal traders want to see like a real clean kind of breakout or kind of the volatility contract before the breakout. But there's a lot of times I see like volatility really come in and hit before the stock rips. You
Yeah,
notice?
but volatility always increases at tops and bottoms, right? Always.
Sure.
It's literally at the end of the move and at the beginning of the move, volatility goes nuts. Those are the moments where they're trying to shake you out to the upside or shake you out to the downside. So it's
Yeah.
literally where it comes, because that's when investors or dip buyers are usually the most volatile. They're like, nope, not taking a 20% haircut. I'm out, right? My 5%, I'm out. So that's I think we've talked about it a bunch of times, which is if you see volatility in a stock that's up 1,000%, like if NVIDIA, right, takes a 50% haircut in the next couple of weeks, that's a lot of volatility. You should probably be paying attention, right? And not trying to get long, but trying to find a point where you can probably short it back down once it gets to its volatile top.
Hey Nick, did you
NVIDIA is
take
probably a bad example because they just crushed it, but you know what I mean?
I was just looking at Randy just mentioned mRNA, Moderna. And Nick, I know that's your pick. Have you taken any profit off of that one yet, Nick, or are you still riding it?
I sold some out as it pushed through 150, and then on the same day as it pushed into 160, I added some back this morning versus that 10-day. The 0.382 was at 149.85.
Playing
So-
from Dowdham.
Not in like a full size position right now, but I did add back some of what I sold.
Was there any news? What's the down today? What's that over?
I'm not sure. I didn't even look, honestly. I thought it had something to do with the freaking bird flu shit going around.
That's why it went up, but is that why it's down?
No, I that I don't know. Take a look.
Yeah, no news.
Building
What a
some
monster move though, Nick. Great call out.
I mean, I wasn't expecting it to rip this hard, but obviously I'm happy that it did. It was a big winner.
Yeah, dude, like with the amount of dead bodies in this chart, you would have expected it to do this, but it just did it.
Especially considering like Pfizer didn't really follow suit. Like it popped, but it really didn't push hard. I would have thought Pfizer would have like busted through 30 easily. And kind of push into that, like where it's heading up into that 40, 41, whatever moving average that is.
the weekly 200.
Oh yeah, which kind of is what Moderna did, but yeah, I don't know.
But Moderna has always moved more volatile than Pfizer anyway.
Sure.
Big moves from the old.
I honestly would not expect Pfizer to have a 20-30% move in a couple of weeks, because that's not Pfizer's character.
GP, are you still holding Disney?
Yep. It looks like garbage. The dispersion trades are wild. Again. What is that? That's two massive periods of dispersion trades. July 2023. Was it July 20? Yeah, and then October 2023, and now again, here we go.
Here we go.
Yeah, but I like it. There's stuff that's broadening out. There's a lot of stuff that's not participating, and the frustration that's growing is kind of wild to see. But this is the stuff that I think we've talked about a lot of stuff over the last couple of years, but this is the stuff that we're talking about. The free money doesn't exist anymore. So the V shapes and stuff like that on stocks that have questionable near-term growth stories or fundamentals, it's not going to be there. There's so many options to take your money and do so many things with that people are not going to go and buy Roblox. And yes, bag holder over here of Roblox, but when I bought it, I knew it's at least a few years out at a minimum, right? Let it build its base, let it do its thing. And as they scale and get to profitability, this will start to behave better. It's not there yet. It may never be there, but that's the goal of what I see based on earnings calls I've listened to, but also the charts. And everyone take their, like, look at Wayfair, another one. Gets to 70, back down to 60. Gets to 70, back down to 50. It's literally the same story over and over again until they show profitability. I'm still not showing it in a way that matters. And you know, my darling, Netflix. Look at Netflix. Nick, I know you like the way Netflix looks, and it looks great, yet it will not go. It will not move higher. There's just no buyers above this area.
I mean, they're looking at my baby right now, right? Like,
I think Netflix looks so good right here. I actually kind of like all of big cap, honestly. Like I think Microsoft and Meta are set up to go. I think Amazon's kind of yeah, you haven't had Amazon up. I think Amazon up. I think all of it kind of looks good. I think it's just
When?
I mean, I think like when do they go?
Yeah, that's the biggest issue, right? They're not like Amazon hit the top from 2020, 2021, like 3 months ago or 2 months ago, and it's just sitting there, and it's like, when is it gonna go? It doesn't look bad, but it's literally just going sideways.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Microsoft, the same thing. I think Microsoft's been sideways for 5 months.
Yeah, probably. I mean, honestly, pretty much all year.
Yeah.
Um,
Meta's exactly where it was on 2 earnings ago, right? So
yeah.
I feel like Apple's been at 190 since we were born.
it has been a long process for Meta or for Apple, that's for sure.
Mm-hmm. Wait, did NVIDIA overtake Apple today?
Oh, I don't know.
Market cap wise?
Well, we can always look that up.
NVIDIA right now is 2.8 trillion. Nope. It's 2.91 for Apple.
Womp womp.
I feel like that's probably a great area to short. As soon as it hits par on market cap with Apple, it's probably a good area to watch for weakness.
3.88 trillion for Microsoft, 2.907 trillion for Apple, and 2.801 trillion for NVIDIA.
Yep. And NVIDIA deserves it, dude. Like, I'm not saying they deserve 3 trillion, but they're just crushing. Have you seen their numbers? They're just mind blowing.
Who's going to reach 2 trillion next? Amazon or Meta? Amazon is at 1.89 and Meta is at 1.209.
Meta. My guess would be Meta. It's cheaper.
I'm asking. I don't know.
Yeah. I think it's Meta because there's just more room for buyers to step in to justify the lower PE, as people would call it, right? I think Meta's only like a 22 PE or something like that.
You know, I don't look at those bullshit numbers, GP.
Yeah, I don't either. My equivalent to PE is when the doctor tells me what my BMI is.
We
Fucking useless.
I don't need reasons from someone else to justify me buying and selling. I can make my own good and bad decisions. Right?
No, it's 100% true, right?
So with the splits coming in the semis, would you kind of anticipate like kind of a bigger, longer period of basing.
Let me ask your question back to you in a different way.
Yeah.
Over the last 3 to 3.5 years of stocks splitting and the run-ups that had happened before the splits, what has happened in those names?
I mean, for instance, like, Amazon, Google, who else split? Tesla, like, I mean, but that was when they split, the market as a whole went into correction mode versus.
So when Tesla split, it went from, I'm looking at the chart, it went from 145 to 414. The second time it split, it went from 290 to 100. So I think it works different ways, but the Amazon and Google splits, they knew that their growth was done for a while. So splitting allowed them to get the liquidity they needed to be able to exit positions, right? Like that's why it was, their split wasn't, hey, we're gonna split next week like NVIDIA. We're gonna split 6 months from now. So here's your plan to get out of the stock before we split, right? Like here's our window of our the split will keep the bid lying underneath because all retail will be like, oh my God, it's gonna split, it's gonna go higher. And so the bid will remain high, gives you opportunity to get out. And then once it splits, it goes down, right?
I think it's a good question, Nick. And I think I'm not saying market conditions are different, as you noted, right? So I'm not saying that because the split's going to happen, NVIDIA is going to tank 20, 30, 40%. I don't think that's going to be the case, personally. Could it be? Maybe. I don't know. But I don't think so. I think you're probably going to have a while of some churn, right? And sideways is a direction. You can have peaks and valleys in that sideways, but I think it's going to take a little while to establish itself to keep those tires from spinning in the mud before it eventually goes. And could that be a quarter? Could that be 2 quarters? Sure. Is that going to be any long-term effects? Probably not.
So it's a 10-for-1 split. So it's going to what it would end up being $100.
Right.
I think the market cap at where it's splitting is probably a big conversation as well. I like technically this could be the final leg higher in NVIDIA,
Sure.
but I would not bet against it until it shows you that.
Yeah,
right?
totally. Right.
So their numbers are great. Can they continue? If you're a reasonable person, you would say maybe it continues at the level it's at, but with their growth, no. Like those year-over-year comps are going to get really, really hard for NVIDIA.
Yeah.
And so they start to discount those year-over-year comps about 6 to 9 months in advance.
Okay.
So you're like, from a technical perspective and kind of like overall fundamentals, you're probably getting towards the tail end of this move in NVIDIA. Does that mean it's going down 60%? I don't know. It could if their sales fall off hard from here. Like if all of a sudden Amazon and Meta and Tesla and Microsoft all said no more investments in AI, stock will crater.
I mean, we went sideways for 217 days at its previous breakout last May, right? So there were ups and downs in that. Nothing major, but there were ups and downs in that. I don't think NVIDIA is going to zero, and I think $100 is an attractive dollar figure for people to want to be involved.
Yeah, I was kind of thinking it was going to go kind of range bound and kind of fluctuate like within the 100, 200 range for months. years. I don't know,
All
something.
right, we got some questions in the chat. Exxon, XOM. There's your chart, the nest. I wouldn't want to be long until it shows it's going to break out, personally. Guys, you have a different take on that?
Yeah, I honestly liked it when it was kind of wedging into the 50-day, but then when it broke last week, I kind of lost interest. Although the candle that it's putting in today,
Encouraging.
it is being that it's kind of pushing above the May 3rd wick low. Yeah, I actually have alerts set at 120. I know that.
Start with the monthly bags.
Yeah.
The monthly showed you a bullish candle that tried to break higher after consolidating, put in a wick, essentially a spinning top or a dragonfly doji or whatever you want to call it. I don't care about any of those names. Bottom line is buyers could not step up to break through. And what's following that month, which is this month, is not only did it not follow through, but it also followed through to the downside. It broke last month's low. So to me, from a higher time frame, Exxon is guilty until proven, right? So to me, on a time frame continuity, this already broke prior month's lows. So my thought is it goes back to the month before that's lows, which is right around 104, 105. But that would also break the 20 week moving average. So then it could accelerate to the downside more. But to me, monthly broke negatively, weekly started to show last week, right? That rejection is a pretty nasty rejection last week. Volume's not really there. It's still above the weekly 20s. So I would not. This is no man's land here right now. Either wait for 110, which is the 20-week moving average, and it holds, or wait for the monthly pivot, which is 104, and that holds.
Or
But-
121.
Or a break above, yeah, or a break above all-time highs. But right now it's in the middle of the pack, and it feels like it'll lead to more frustration than anything else.
Agreed. Nick likes it though. He said, "Get you some gush." Baba.
Gosh, here, wow.
I'm involved here with Baba still. It's back in its little range that had been testing for support and resistance. So I'm not concerned until it breaks below 75. Doesn't look the best, but I would sure like it a lot better if it reclaimed 82. That's my take on Baba.
Yeah.
I think in general looks like it's kind of retouched in the breakout.
Yep.
But why Baba over PDD or JD, which are to me better looking charts?
Yep.
PDD definitely is.
I like JD a lot here versus the 50-day.
Yeah, like I said, better looking charts, right? Like I just
Playing from Gautam.
the
Sure.
volume last week was a little bit too much for me in terms of all these China names. So
Sure.
it's on watch for further downside. So until they stop behaving like they've been behaving for the last 2 years, which is at every moment lose 15% randomly, 20%, then I think I'd have more trust in these names. But
Volume's picking up though, GP. I know that was a big sell volume last week, but just look over the last year. Volume is going higher.
it is.
You're big on volume. You're our volume guy. You're a resident volume guy. Similar to our conversation that we had about FSLR. The China names to me are even trickier because the news happens when market hours aren't happening, and you wake up and it's up 20%, it's down 30%, right? So
Yeah.
you have to me, if you want to be involved, and I don't like it as my long hold, I'm only in China names as trades. If you want to be involved in the trade, you got to be able to take some of that pain on the way down potentially, because you don't know when you're going to wake up and you're going to have that massive up day and you just miss out.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a news driven market, or stock market at least. And they're coming out of, a really not great time economically. So it's going to take some sustained movements to the upside. But yeah, if you're not already used to waking up to 20-30% moves in China, I don't know if you're ever going to be.
Last one, Snow. GP's going to say why. Valid question. Beloved name. Nick, what's your take on old Snowbird here?
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was starting to kind of shape up and look all right. Just kind of trying to bottom out while curling. Well, like the shorter term moving averages started to curl under price, and I thought it was getting ready to bust through the 200-day, but yeah, kind of with GP, like, why? What's the point?
A lot of people
I think
love it.
like one thing to really consider when you're looking at stage one bases or like some of these big bases is when you have a flatlined 200-day, or especially like the 200-day starting to turn down, like it's going to take some fucking time to get that thing to curl up. And a lot of times price is going to like pull back to that 200-day or at least close to get while it's trying to get that moving average to curl up. So
Let's
it
just
should
run on here.
It took 200 days to make it curl down. It's not going to take 3 days to make it curl up, right? So
exactly.
you can see it. This is exactly what's happening in Tesla, right? It's still well below the 200-day moving average on the daily, the weekly, the monthly. So you essentially every single morning wake up to Tesla being gapped down 2 to 3%. It's literally the daily thing that happens, and they're using those gap downs to accumulate if you're looking at the charts, but it takes time, right? So Snow's the same thing to me. Is while everything else was building its base, it refused to build its base, and now it's building its base. It's going to take time. So the question I asked, what was it, like almost a year ago or 6 months ago? I was like, why? Why do you want to be in this stock?
Yeah.
Well, so it's beloved by many for reasons that are beyond me. I mean, I think that there's a lot of companies that
The conversation that's going to be had about NVIDIA when NVIDIA finally decides to like just chop the fuck around versus continually ripping higher. I think
What's that?
the frustration and what Tesla is doing to a lot of individual investors or even traders is the same conversation that we're going to be having once NVIDIA goes into basically sheep slayer mode, whether it's going with a basis for 6 months, a year, a couple years, whatever it does, instead of just basically melting higher, trending higher.
To me, like, yeah, Tesla's that. But the thing that stands out about Tesla versus Snow, right? Like why I asked why Snow versus not why Tesla, while Tesla is also in a pretty massive downtrend, right? Ultimately, is why not one or the other? Like to me, Tesla is accumulation. There is a lot of buying since January 2023. Yes, we've come down a lot, not on a lot of selling, but there is a lot of buying in the chart in Tesla. So to me, the accumulation is there that sustains further upside whenever it's ready to go. Whereas Snow, I don't see any accumulation in Snow. I see on the weekly, ever since it bottomed at 110 in 2022, almost every big volume bar in Snow is red on the weekly. So to me, I don't trust it. I need to see at least a glimmer of hope on one weekly bar that is green, not red. And then we can talk about capitulation, we can talk about buying, we can talk about what a bottom looks like. But to me, there's still no bottom here. So I wouldn't even call this a base yet, Nick. That's my thing. Like there needs to be another test of that base, right? Like whatever that area is. I think for me, it would be around the 120 area for snow.
I was gonna say, Tesla was. I'm trying to figure out how I pulled it up. But if you had a whale wisdom, it actually has. You can pull up a heat map and see some of the like top names that are being accumulated. You know, in the previous quarters, and Tesla was actually pretty high up on the accumulation list in Q1, which I thought was.
And that it's been for a while, for Tesla, because that's kind of how it goes. A big shareholder comes in from Tesla, been holding $19 billion worth of stock, and they're slowly cutting their position down. So the price just behaves awfully. Once it gets to a level, the other institutional levels, it's literally just rotation game. And it's been going on for like a decade now. So
Rotation station.
exactly.
We got like 10 minutes left. We want to talk a little about crypto before the bell, or we want to stick on subject?
I have one question for both of you before we get to crypto, which is, in your opinion, what makes all these names that we talk about on a consistent basis, Netflix, Amazon, Google, Microsoft, and then the sub tier of what everyone's bullish on is small caps, right? What takes, because I don't think it's rates personally, but what do you guys think takes this market to the next leg higher? And for me, after 2 to 3 months of the NASDAQ composite consolidating at the 2021 highs and now just starting to break out, I think the next leg is higher. So the question is, what, if you had to guess, we can go with right answers or wrong answers. What takes the market to that next leg higher? Because you have NVIDIA who crushed numbers and nothing's moving besides a handful of chips. Nick, you start first.
So you're asking what you think the catalyst is for, like, let's say the IWM specifically?
The narrative. What's going to be the narrative to take us higher? Because the higher part, I think, technically is already set. So the question is, what's your opinion on what that narrative is?
I still think it will be rates.
Rates?
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that's what will be the. I mean, that, or I guess something within the political landscape. The IWM. Yeah, I don't know. I think the resolution is going to be higher as well. I think that's already set. I guess I don't know. I don't have a good.
That's fine. I put you on the spot. It's not a big deal. Ben, thoughts?
Generally not how I try to. It's just generally not how I want to say think, or maybe I try not to think.
No, and that's why I said, that's why I preface with, technically, I think the market's going higher. I'm curious on what bullshit narrative is going to be spun on why the markets are going higher. That's what you can make up wrong answers too if you want.
I don't think it's a bullshit narrative. I'm a firm believer in an everything rally happening. We've we've seen these cycles happen before, right? We've seen a handful of mega caps keep the market afloat. Everything else catches up, then everything rallies. That's pretty much standard boilerplate bull market material. And I'm
Yep.
still firmly in the belief of we're still in the middle of a 12 to 15 year bull market run.
That's a great narrative. That's not bullshit. That's just a good narrative.
So we're going to experience lulls, and we've talked about this again. One of the many things that we've talked about at length, right? Could we have a lost decade? Could we chop sideways with violent surges up or down? We absolutely could, but I've just got the cues back to 2009. Yeah, 2022 is a little bit different than everything else. But if you scroll back even further, anytime we've experienced anything of that magnitude, which would be the great financial crisis, which we did not experience in 2022, you just keep marching higher and you eventually take out that high. I think, and you guys know how much I hate these analogs, but I think this period right here was sort of our 2022 and 2018. I think that was sort of our 2020, that 2018 was 2022 at a smaller level, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we're going to see probably another 6 to 8 years of just grinding higher to some extent.
I still don't think people really fully grasp how bad 2022 was.
It was pretty bad. Well, you
Like, I don't.
on the wall of worry though, Nick, right? Like the shorts and the bears, they just help fuel these rallies, right? Just
Yeah.
like when bulls are too greedy, like it makes it really easy to take it down. I think that's only going to we've talked about cycles getting tighter or smaller, right? Like things are happening quicker and quicker and quicker. Well, at the same time, cycles can be quick, but that can be a lot of little cycles into a lot bigger cycles too, right? And
Yeah.
I think that's exactly the case that we're in. And I don't feel like granted, anything geopolitical, nobody, it was very hard to predict what would happen in early 2020, right? Like, very few people saw that coming from a financial aspect, not just a worldwide pandemic. So that's your black swan event. We can't predict black swan events. But again, 2022 wasn't really a black swan event. I mean, yes, you did have Russia's invasion of Ukraine, but at the same time, like there was a lot of froth getting taken off the market, which is good for the bulls, right?
Yeah.
So I don't think that there's any super hocus pocus narrative that we're just going to wave a wand and say it's rates, or we're going to say we found some type of new life-changing mineral on Venus or Mars or wherever, right? Like that's can't predict those things. From what I see in the chart, just from a strictly TA perspective, we are still in a solid bull market, and bull markets do have dips.
Yeah, and I think that's a great point, Ben. That's we may have not had the trajectory down in the indices, right? Like the Qs or the SPY, but you were able to get the best of the best companies at 60 to 80% discounts in 6 months. 6 months, not 6 years. In 6 months, they wiped 60 to 80% of the value off these companies. And so you may not think, not you, Ben, but in general, you may not think 37% was enough for the Qs, but the mayhem and the destruction in so many of the top tier companies, while no recession,
Yeah.
while no recession, while no reclaim of a pandemic again, while political parties have remained stable, there's no election, there's no increase in war. You had 70 to 80, okay, Russia was part of it, but it's isolated, right? But you had 60 to 80% moves down. Look at what
We got
Apple
10
did in
seconds.
2009.
Sorry,
It went from
SPY and the Qs are
$7.25
going to
to
close
$2.30.
green. Sorry.
What's that?
We got 10 seconds for the bell and everything's going to close green. No, and GP, to that point, we're also not taking into account boomers leaving the workforce. And I'm not saying boomers as a derogatory, that's their generation. And we have millennials supplanting them as the largest part of the workforce and shifting into the largest property owners, and part of the wealth is coming to millennials. Who do you think is going to inherit the boomers' money? The millennials are, right? So
Yeah.
we are recycling. Hey, I get it. It can be tough out there for a lot of folks, but at the same time, this happens all in a cycle. And with boomers leaving, selling their businesses, selling their assets, a lot of boomers are giving them to their family. And a lot of those family members will be their younger millennial or young or old Gen Xers like myself.
Yeah. The transfer of wealth, all that stuff is a big part of this conversation, and I think quite underlooked. It's just, I think, just technically when I look at the markets, it's like, yeah, you had your generational buying opportunity and you said, I want another 30%. So like, obviously Netflix, but Amazon went from 188 to $80, right? Amazon is literally used by everyone on the planet. They are still growing their revenues like a crazy amount, and they lost more than 50% of their value in 6 to 8 months, right? So let's take Netflix with their woke stuff out of the conversation, but Amazon's not woke. They're just an everyday give you what you want consumer product, and people love it. It's a sticky product, everyone loves it, and it's still lost 60%. And their revenues are higher now than they were in 2021 when everyone's like peak growth. And so they've been able to supplant that. But that's the thing, like we had a 60% move down in a lot of mega cap names, and the indices only went down 37%, so to speak, right? If we got another 30%, you would have had these mega caps trading at book value. At some point, it was getting a bit ridiculous, right? And as it gets ridiculous on the downside, it also gets ridiculous on the upside. So I understand that it goes both ways. And I think people, how often have we talked about you need something else to get the second leg down? We never got the second leg down because something else never materialized. Right? We talked about it with the great financial crisis. Everything was hunky-dory until that September Lehman, Bear Stearns collapse. And then people are like, oh crap. There might be more to this than it was sell first. Don't ask any questions, sell again, keep selling. It was, yeah. Anyway, sorry. I'll get off the little soapbox.
No, I sorry, and not to get too Ray Dalio on us here, but I think the only concern that sticks out there for me is birth rate of our our millennial folks, right? We're not having babies quite as fast as projections have been. We're actually trailing the previous 2 10-year models for 2010 and 2022 models. We're greatly behind both of those estimates. And over the course of a generation, that'll matter. But in the next 8 to 10 years, that's not going to matter too much.
Yep.
Anyway.
It takes time. Anyway, we can go on to the crypto. I thought I'd ask the question because I'm very curious.
Crypto good. Crypto good.
Only 2 words?
Crypto good. And since we've been here on the pod, crypto up. And when I say crypto, I'm talking about Bitcoin and Ethereum, up 1.5% each while we've just been shooting the shit here. So crypto good. Alt season now. Alt season now. So that's my 4 words. Crypto good. Alt season now.
Okay. What? So why? I'm a little naive to the whole crypto world. Why would alt season begin now versus after Bitcoin? Ethereum still hasn't taken out its 2021 highs, right? And Bitcoin is struggling or consolidating, not struggling, at the 2021 highs. Why wouldn't alt season be after these names actually break out and start to realize their
So
moves
just
higher?
because it's alt season doesn't mean that Bitcoin doesn't continue to go up first. So that don't think that one dramatically affects the other in the way that Apple might drag the entire S&P 500.
So it's not rotational in crypto where people
No,
start to
it's
harvest
money
gains
flow
from their...
in. It's all money flow in. So
Okay.
money goes into Bitcoin, money goes into Ethereum, money goes into alts, recycle back around, money goes into Bitcoin, money goes into Ethereum, money goes into alts, recycle back
So
around.
it's always new money. It's not rotational.
Yeah, but for the most part, that's what you see is new money. And with the upcoming and impending Ethereum ETF, which I have talked about a couple times in the past, we are on the precipice of some major pamps, I believe. So anyway, there you go. Bitcoin hit 70. What did it hit over the weekend? Oh, it's 70 some K, which is great. I look at Bitcoin dominance and see this is Bitcoin against all other coins, GP. And if you can see Bitcoin against all other coins, it's hitting this like 54, 56% level, and it's kind of petering off. Now, if Bitcoin dominance continues to go up, it is not alt season. Stay in Bitcoin, keep long Bitcoin. You should keep long Bitcoin anyway.
Can you go to a monthly on that dominance chart?
Of course I can.
So technically, alts have been dominating Bitcoin.
Yes.
Right. So
this
more
is
money is flowing
this
into
is the percentage of money into Bitcoin, right? So
yeah, so money's flowing out of Bitcoin into alts
2016,
continuously.
2017, we started getting more money into other cryptos. So money wasn't flowing into Bitcoin as quickly. Then you see Bitcoin go up, right? Because money's flowing into Bitcoin. Then you see it come down, and now you see it go back up. So we're in a place now that if we get, I would be very surprised to see 60% Bitcoin dominance again, because there are so many tokens out there that one can invest in as opposed to 2017 and 2016.
Interesting. So the general consensus is you should be moving money out of Bitcoin over time and into alts. Because it's putting in lower highs ultimately on this dominance chart.
New money, right? Like if you're, this is not financial advice. This is strictly what I have done. New money should be going into Bitcoin. Once you have a base in Bitcoin, it'd just be like layering the Qs as your primary ETF into everything else. Then you move into Ethereum. Once you've got your base of Ethereum, then you move into your shit coins or your altcoins. And those are trading projects. The only alt that I will plant my stake into forever outside of Ethereum is Chainlink. So
So
you
is
go.
there, curious question, is there a version of this crypto Bitcoin dominance chart for the Qs
Oh, I don't know.
or tech?
That's a great question. No.
Because that's something I'd love to see. I don't feel like building it out, but that's
Well,
something I would love to
it wouldn't be
see.
the Qs. It would be like Apple dominance. No, there is no Apple dominance chart.
It would have to be like the Nasdaq dominance or something.
Well,
Because
Bitcoin
yeah, it's a little
like
harder
Apple's
because
Apple.
Bitcoin's
Yeah.
actually not a index; it's an asset.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Anyway, Chainlink gave you all the chances in the world under $13 to get in, and it's already up to 18 and a half. What did we talk about? False moves. Everybody was worried about a Head and Shoulders here. Doesn't look like a Head and Shoulders anymore. Anyway, my humble prediction is altcoin season soon.
Okay.
There
Any
you go.
specific names you want to throw out there? That
I love
obviously
Link.
Chainlink.
I love
and-
Link. I love Uniswap. Uniswap had a big week last week. Huge week last week. I'm in Shiba Inu. Shiba Inu is a meme. Nice little flag there on the weekly. Polkadot is like my Polkadot is like my Pfizer GP.
Okay.
I get so many investing rewards for being in Polkadot that it's like my ATM. When I need a little money, I pull it out of Polkadot because it's earning free money. Basically, it's got a dividend. But outside of Bitcoin, Ethereum, Link, Uniswap, that would be my top four. I like Internet Computer Protocol (ICP), but it's been a bit of a struggle. So I actually bumped Uni up there above Uniswap.
Okay.
There you go.
So I have a mission this week. It's good. That was good knowledge. Thank you, Ben. I'm gonna go through a lot of alt charts as well and start to see.
AVAX Near is one of my favorites. Near is an absolute favorite of mine. It should have, if you look at all the other charts, all right, here's Near. It has shown relative strength compared to just about everything over the last couple months. I mean, just randomly hitting names here. Near has done really well. So yeah, do your own research. Hit me up if you have questions. But yeah, love Link, love Uniswap, and you gotta do Bitcoin, Ethereum.
You think the next breakout here in Bitcoin takes it to 100K?
73K is what we need to see broken. 73K.
Bigger breakouts to 206.
Yeah, once it breaks 73, we're going to 100. Nick, in my personal opinion. And that can happen simultaneously with altcoins just absolutely ripping.
Yeah.
You think it stops? This is a decent amount of consolidation. The longer this consolidation, the less likelihood 100,000 is a stop.
Yeah. I would agree.
That to me, it's what, 8 weeks flagging, 9 weeks flagging here. This is going way past the 100 in my opinion.
If we use an uptrend line from the prior highs, right? You do run into like a 90, 88, 89, $90,000 sort of resistance. That'll be your pause before 100 grand.
Okay. What if you draw it from the 2007 to 2017 to 2021?
Did Robinhood report today?
They reported a while ago.
Yeah, 2 weeks ago, I think, Nick.
Oh, why is it up so?
So if you go from the 2017, it's a little bit higher, right?
Yeah, you can draw it that way too. It's quite a bit higher, but I would anticipate a breath catching before it hurdles over 100K.
Yeah, but I don't think it's going to be a long breath, right? I think it's going to be a quick short breath.
This is like Michael Phelps coming up for one breath of air before he hits the stretch, right? Like,
Yep. That's what it feels like to me in Bitcoin. Like it's building, it's building and it's building. It's when it goes, it's going to be viciously higher.
and this typically happens after the halving. I've talked about that too. Bitcoin takes a while to consolidate after it halves, and this should be expected. We shouldn't. The only thing that had me thrown off was the run up prior to the halving. That's the only thing that's been different about this entire cycle. Okay, that's it. That's your crypto 10 minutes.
Yeah. You're welcome,
All right.
Asim, on the FSLR and Myrna trades. Both have monster weeks, Nick. Insane, right?
Yeah.
mRNA, Nick has 145 and he already sold some, so that price target's already been achieved. GP with the JD. What'd you say? 40-41. We're not quite there, GP. We'll see if we can get a breath. And my Tesla, I bought at 176. Hey, look at it. It's 176.
That's
Shit,
progress.
man.
It's not 136.
Piece of shit.
Right? I believe like
I love
2
Elon.
days
Elon's
after
the best.
we set these targets, Tesla lost like 20%. No?
Elon's the best.
Break even, man. It's not a bad thing.
When do we have to
Lane
announce
from
that?
Gautam.
July 1. Yeah, we've got the rest of this month coming up.
Yeah.
All right, fellas, I got things to do, people to see, babies to kiss, and birthdays to celebrate.
Happy birthday, Ben.
Thank you. Thank you, guys. Thank you for everybody tuning in. We do this for you guys. We would get together and talk stuff anyway. We just thought it was interesting to let you guys hear some of our takes. So there you go. Thank you, Nick. Thank you, GP. Thank you to everyone who listened and watched. And with that, our time is through for the day, and we'll see you next week, next Monday, right? We're going back to Monday?
Yes.
Next Monday, 3 o'clock power hour, Nick. That's 2 o'clock your time.